We are live. Would you believe it? This is amazing. So, Trish, I'm just going to leave you to say hello to everybody for 2 seconds while I see if I can find us in the group.
Awesome. So I'm Trish, and as you can see, I hail from New Zealand. And I think it's amazing that here we are, Kay and I, upside down to each other, different parts of the world, and we're just so excited to come here tonight for me. It's morning for her, and just connect with everyone who's coming on and have this conversation, which I think is going to be a lot of fun, even though it's quite serious and sobering at time. Kay and I have just had so much fun preparing for this. So have we got people coming on, Kay? Are they there?
We are live in the group, so people can see us in the group, which is really, really important. And also, just to say, if you want to make comments so that we can see them, you'll need to log into StreamYard. It's a bit complicated, I know.
Yeah.
Don't worry if you don't want to, because now I've found us in the group, I can see anybody who's putting comments into the Facebook group as well. And for those of you who are still in bed, because I do understand that, you know, New Zealand and Spain, there's 12 hours difference for us. Yeah. So it's my morning, it's Trish's night. And for most people around the world, they're in bed or they're not available. Hence, we're going to put this recording onto YouTube, and we'll definitely send you the link to the YouTube video as well afterwards. So that everybody can get this information, because we think it's really valuable and really important.
Absolutely. And just to emphasize, we're not medical doctors. So everything we're talking about tonight, in this session is literally from our own experience, our own research, our own knowledge, and of how we've learned to manage stress and anxiety.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we're coming from two sides of the coin, as it was, in that, Trish, you've got your own personal experiences dealing with stress and anxiety, and I've had experience of looking after clients and family members who've gone through some serious stress and anxiety issues. So just tell the group, you know, the people who are listening in, a little bit about your own story, Trish.
Absolutely. So I always think of Brené Brown's quote where she says, midlife is not a crisis, it's an unraveling. And this was definitely my story. In my 50s, I just had a succession of major life events that just impacted me so significantly. Both my parents had died. I was supporting my husband through his cancer journey. I had just finished a career of 35 years as a classroom teacher. We'd had multiple house shifts. Our grown family had left home, and sadly, my husband decided to leave home as well. And so within a few years, I just felt like I'd lost my identity, and every change felt really unfamiliar and very stressful.
Yeah, and I think my story, I think I myself as a very positive person, I feel very lucky, and I do have stress. We all have stress in our lives. But I've watched, you know, loved ones, particularly around financial crises, really, really struggle. So in 2008, my husband really hit rock bottom. His business of 15 years collapsed, and it was a really tough time. And the hardest thing for me was I didn't know what he was going through. I couldn't understand. And it was really hard when you see somebody else struggling. You know, how do you cope with it? And I've learned lots of tools with that. And then last year, my oldest son went through a very similar process due to COVID and lockdown. So as well as helping clients, these tools have been very useful in a personal way. So Trish, what are we going to talk about?
Well, we're here to just basically share our knowledge, our experience of managing stress, of how we support others with stress, and as Kay's talked about, her experiences with her family. And so the first question I guess we can ask is, well, what is stress?
Yeah, I think that's a really good one, isn't it?
If you look at the dictionary meaning, it just basically says it's a state of mental or emotional strain or tension. And what is really significant is everyone's experiences stress. Stress is different for different people. And I often like to use the example of a roller coaster. And just for reference, I've never been on a roller coaster, but people are there. They're just, yay, this is so exciting. And others are kind of hanging on, what am I doing here? And same experience, but different stress responses. And let's face it, right now with COVID, global pandemic, we're all on this roller coaster. We didn't choose to board. And even that particular stress is impacting people different ways. So, you look at a parent needing to homeschool their children while facing possible redundancy of their work. And then you've got a company who are frantically trying to make more face masks. It's the same experience of a pandemic. Stress levels, very different. Stress around finances, very different. And, these aren't my personal examples, and I can only speak from my experience, which was really identifying that my well-being was being so negatively impacted by just all these changed circumstances. It was just this domino effect of lots of loss and grief, and then the secondary loss and grief. And my physical health was suffering. My mental and spiritual and emotional health was suffering. And I actually realized I ended down this rabbit hole of just feeling totally overwhelmed with life.
I think it's also interesting that you're talking about stress, because we see stress as a really negative thing. And the interesting thing is, I think it was, I have to have a look at my notes, 1936, until then, stress didn't exist. It wasn't even a word in the dictionary. And it's one of the myths that I think is very interesting about stress. We think all stress is negative, and yet we need stress. If we don't have a little bit of a stress in our bodies on a morning and our hormones kicking, we don't get out of bed. And what was interesting was that in 1936, Hans Seeley, I think his name is Seeley, he was doing experiments on animals, not even on humans. And he made a realization there was this thing that we in the past called malaise. And he gave it a new word. But he described it in two formats. He described it as stress and eustress. Eustress as in EU with stress, eustress. And stress was the negative and eustress was the positive. And that stress has got good positive sides to it. Fight and flight, for example, if you're in danger, your adrenaline's kick in, and it helps you get out of the circumstance, or you freeze so that you're hidden, as in animals would. The media didn't take on this, though. The media just took on the negative stress, and here we are in a very stressful world now. It's very interesting, isn't it? So you were just talking a little bit earlier about how stress affects your health and well-being. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure I will. The wake-up call for me was literally I was diagnosed by a nursing friend as having a heart attack. And so after just within a couple of hours of sitting enjoying a lovely post-Christmas lunch with friends and family, I ended up in an ambulance on my way to the hospital. And interestingly, my heart was fine. But one of the nurses, quite perceptive, she said, well, Trish, have you experienced any stress in your life? And I thought, okay, I'm going to check that out. And I remember doing one of those stress quizzes. And interestingly, I think 150 was normal. Well, I topped about 500. And it just made me realize that my life was so out of balance. And it's funny, I was not long ago, my lovely son-in-law got into my car and he said to me, Trish, he says, do you realize that, your car's veering to the left and you probably need a wheel alignment? And I had just been driving that car and obviously slowly, am I going left or right? We're mirroring here and I can't work out what's left or right. But anyway, you get the idea. So I didn't realize that I was just adjusting the steering to handle this car. So it wasn't until somebody else got on behind the steering wheel that actually I was aware that, okay, my car needed to actually have some somebody check it out. Sadly, the wear and tear had already been done.
Sorry, so my problem.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, and so that was almost like it was for me. I got to the hospital. I thought, okay, Trish, something's happening here, really serious, and it's like my body had just closed down, you know. And I recognized when I did a little bit of research that I actually had adrenal fatigue.
Wow.
I was totally burnt out, mind, body, and soul. And so I just went on this journey discovering, you know, there was times I felt like I was going crazy. There was times I felt just totally embarrassed that I couldn't handle being I couldn't handle being in malls, you know, shopping malls. The cacophony of noise was just too much for me. And I was just constantly getting sick. So Kay's already mentioned about the what happens when we go into a fight, flight, and freeze stress response. That was my constant state. And as I learned about our nervous system, I mean, we're so, our body is so amazing. We are designed to always protect ourselves from danger. And our bodies are designed, if, you know, take the scenario, you're walking through a forest and all of a sudden you're aware that a wild animal is about to attack you. Well, you can be guaranteed everything in your body, in your nervous system, will put all the blood straight to those legs. So you're going to run faster than you ever imagined you could. But the reality is, and just we call that the sympathetic nervous system. It's that heightened adrenal pumping. But hopefully you get away from the wild animal. It's then important to let the parasympathetic take over, to bring our bodies back to what we call a rest and digest. And I think what we're aware of is that in our modern world, we're always in these stress modes. Well, a lot of people, myself included, when it's actually not, it's non-life-threatening situations we're facing, but we're seeing them as a huge danger that our body is having to go into alert. And some of them are real. You know, there's relationship issues we have. Sometimes it's just feelings of insecurity or inadequacy as a parent, as a partner, as a colleague, financial struggles. Just even having a negative attitude about life can so impact our stress levels. And of course, there's the uncertainty of the future. And let's be honest, we're living in a stage in history where we still don't know what's going to happen next month around the whole COVID pandemic. But what happens if we continue to be in this real heightened level of adrenal? The blood is constantly going to fight a perceived danger, even if it's not there. And it actually means we can't maintain the normal function. So that's when you develop the health issues, as I did. You know, there's often heart issues, blood pressure, digestive upsets, migraines. You know, you can probably add your own when you know what happens when you get stressed. And it's that awareness of just being knowing, okay, that's a stress trigger. Something's happened, and have I really got a tiger about to attack me? Generally, no. So that's really been my journey of just discovering what it is that's happening to us and what's happening to our bodies. In fact, our whole well-being, when we're in constant levels of heightened stress.
I think that's a really good story and a really good way of explaining, you know, from your own personal viewpoint of what happened to you. We've got some ladies joining us this morning. I can see them here on the screen. If my eyes go down, it's because I'm looking at my mobile phone on actual Facebook. So we've got Lynn and Penny and Marion with us. If any of them want to send in questions, if they type them below the video, we can answer them as we go along. The difference between stress and anxiety, Trish.
Absolutely. I'm just making this. She's asking my questions. She's on a mobile. So
we've lost you a little bit. The connection's gone down a little bit. I wonder if we can get you back.
me.
You're pixelating. Hang on. Yeah, we've
You know,
it seems that I'm
Go.
okay, but your
Okay.
internet at the minute's gone down. So you've gone a little bit pixelated. We'll just see if we can get you back. You're now frozen completely. So in time.
No.
This is amazing, isn't it? Modern technology, we do love it. This is when you get stressed, isn't it? I think you might be back. Have a go and see. No, we've lost you.
I'm back. I'm back, people. I
You're
never
back.
really left.
Yeah, no, you've gone again. So yeah, we're struggling with the internet again today, unfortunately, which is a great
But I
shame.
can see things were happening.
Yeah, we'll have to see if we can cut this out of the video when I come around to record it. We were going to talk about stress and the difference between stress and anxiety. I'm going to leave that for now, and I think I'll just go on and tell you my story a little bit, see if we can get Trish back. So I was going to talk about the way you help other people going through stress, because it's a different thing when you're watching other people really struggle with stress and anxiety, and you cannot be them. So this is the biggest issue that we have, and it's the first question. Trish, you're back. I was just going to talk a little bit over that.
Okay, I'm back. Can you see me?
Go on quickly. I want you to carry on about stress and anxiety, because if we don't and we lose you again, at least I can carry on with my bit.
I'm going to just...
You're fine. We've lost her now completely. She's taken away a picture. A fan of modern technology. Yeah, she's gone all completely now. See if I can get her back in. Here we go. Yes, you're back.
Am I in? Yay! Thank you. So that's
okay. Let's try again.
Okay.
Stress and anxiety. It's all up to you.
Absolutely. Well, this is so interesting because this is part of my story about anxiety as a future-based thought. And I love the quote, worry is a down payment on a problem you may never have. And so I'm actually going to share a story about what happened on Monday. The first thing is my phone died, which is why unfortunately I couldn't have my phone as a backup tonight. I said to Kate, I'm sorry if the internet goes down, you're on your own, because I managed to get my phone wet when I went for a walk. I got caught in the downpour, and the same day my reading glasses broke, and of course that was the first day of a 3-day lockdown here in New Zealand, where we didn't know how long it was going to extend, so everything's closed down. Oh, and of course then I had to have my hairdresser postpone my haircut. Now I realised there was a few stresses there. I still haven't solved the phone. Not sure what's going to be a new one. So that's an unexpected expense. But what I realised was I was getting anxious about what could happen and what would, even tonight, what was I going to do without my glasses? Well, I've got my notes written out with the font so large a 5-year-old could read them. and I thought, okay, we had the issue with the phone. I didn't have the phone as a backup, but I'm back here now. And what really made me understand is that would have thrown me a few years ago. I would have thought I'm letting Kay down, I've failed. And I've realised now that I value my well-being too much. And even now when the internet went down, I would have panicked if I didn't have the tools in place that, Kay's got this, I'll come back. Oh, maybe if I just do this, and it worked. But the heart starts pounding, and I start to get all these anxious thoughts, and the stories in your head. Oh no, this is happening again. That's anxiety, where you're thinking something's going to happen because maybe it happened before, and it's maybe just able to be resolved, like we could resolve this. So we've wasted so much time doing that. So let's quickly go on to what's my next question there, Kay?
So we wanted to ask you about the tools that you put in place, which makes sense, doesn't it, after what you've just told us? So yeah.
Absolutely. I call it my 4 C's, which is curiosity, compassion, connection, and choice. And the first one, curiosity, just become aware of the triggers. If you're feeling any stress symptoms, what's happening? How does it affect your body? For me, it's the neck, get stiff neck. It's my digestion. I find I'm not digesting food properly. And the second C is compassion. Just be gentle with yourself. You know, I felt there was shame attached to my story. What was happening to me? Why am I like this? And I realised that there's no shame experience when you all of a sudden go into overwhelm, because when you can understand why you're having those feelings, then you know how to manage them, and then you know how to resolve. And for me, you know, I still get some anxiety and stress, but I do know now not to let it take hold of me. Connection, listen to your body. You know, we talked about the parasympathetic system. We have a fabulous vagus nerve. It's like, it's the queen of the parasympathetic system. If you're feeling stressed, sing, hum, it activates that. I mean, if I wake up and it's not my best of days, I have a Spotify playlist and I put that list on and I dance and sing around the room until I feel myself ready to face the world. And that's just, it's within each of us. If you can't sing, hum, just get your breath freshener out and gargle. It just activates that beautiful resting of your system that our body's designed to do. And the last one is choice. Often we can't always control external circumstances like the internet tonight, but we can always control how we respond to it. And that's been my biggest tool. There's been a lot of really difficult life events that I've had to face and work through, and I couldn't control that, but I've realized I can control my thoughts, I can control my beliefs about myself, and I can control how I respond to anything that's coming my way that might want to take me down. I know that's how we empower ourselves to actually manage the stress that will keep coming in our life.
I love that. So that's curiosity, compassion,
yes,
connection, and choice.
And choice.
The 4 C's. Wonderful.
Absolutely. And I'm going to pass it over to you now, because I've spoken enough, and I know Kay's got so much to tell us about her role in just supporting people through stress. So Kay, what's the first thing we need to know when we support people?
I think I was attempting to do this while you were in and out.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry about it, because I didn't get there. But just to say, nobody needs fixing. You cannot fix anybody. They're responsible for what they're going through. And responsibility is probably the not right word, because at the time, it's happening to them. You feel for them, and I get that, but you can't be them. So the first thing is, don't attempt to fix them. And I think if you take that away from the situation you're in, it changes the situation completely. Nobody needs fixing. Everybody's in their story at the time for a reason, and they will come out of it at the other end, most likely a much stronger person. So first thing is, don't fix them. You can't. You may have to give them some space, and space can be literally giving yourself a bit of distance from them, or it can be creating a space where they feel safe and they trust, and you understand what they're going through, and you let them go through it. So you hold a sacred space for them. And I think that's really important to remember. A lot of us don't do that. When somebody else is going through stress and anxiety, we tend to get into the blame and judgment and criticism. Not that. It's about holding a safe space for them. So that's, I think, really important. Ask me another question.
Oh, so what are some other simple things that you can do to support each other? maybe remember you've talked to me about, helping eating well, hydrating. Talk about some of those things. Yeah.
The simple stuff is always the most important stuff and the easiest stuff, and it's a step-by-step process. So it's looking at not only just the person you're supporting, but yourself as well. We'll come back to self in a minute, but think about making sure that they're eating properly. That they're eating I call it as near to the ground as possible, so that you're eating fresh food. Fresh veg, grass-fed beef or meat, if you're going to eat meat, fish, that type of thing, but fresh stuff, nothing processed, nothing with added chemicals. Chemicals is a really good way of adding stress to your body. So hydration, making sure you're drinking enough water. I'm sat here with my cup with my lemon juice in this morning, and I haven't drank enough, so excuse me a minute. Hydration is really important. Exercise, even if it's just to go for a stroll into nature, and to connect with nature. All these things, just like you said about singing, Trish, just help bring down the stress levels. And laugh, which you talked about, singing and laughing, put on a really funny video and have a good laugh. It changes everything. And I'm a really big one on toxic environment. So making sure that you've got your home in a safe place, that there's no toxicity in there. Toxicity for me is your cleaning equipment, your personal toiletries, your makeup, and even relationships. Now that's a difficult one quite often, but toxic relationships definitely cause more stress. So those are the main things. And then to think about things like the person may be so stressed they don't want to hug or be cuddled, but you could just maybe brush their hand as you walk past them or touch their shoulder, just to so that there's a movement of energy and they know that you're there supporting them. Sex is a really good one. Think about making Friday night a special night, whatever. Introduce it if you can. This is a really good way of de-stressing. And definitely think about talking to the person, sitting down and listening to what they've got to say. And if you're in a conversation with them, tell them that you don't understand, because you're not going through it with them. But don't blame them, don't judge them, and don't criticize them. And those were the things that I really struggled with. Not getting into the victim and victimization role and becoming the victim yourself. My husband's going through depression, and therefore, I'm also struggling. So that's a really good one. Yeah.
Awesome. And you mentioned about, and I'd love you to talk more about, is it the psoas muscle? It's got a funny...
The psoas muscle, yeah. We've got Caroline online as well. This is like an extension of what I've just been talking about. There's two bits I want to talk about. The first one's being a mirror to the other person. And I think this is really a really good little... Again, they're simple techniques, the things you can do. So if you think about somebody who's in an anxious state, they breathe very rapidly. And so you can breathe to the same rhythm as they're breathing. So, if you and I were to go, if we're both doing that, I'm copying your breathing, and then I change my breathing. Unconsciously, you will change your breath too, which will bring down your level of anxiety. And you can do the same with mirroring. If you think of a person who's in a grey place, I'm not going to say depressed, but grey, they tend to have their head down on the ground, shoulders hunched, and, everything's enclosed. And if you mirror that, mimic that, and then bring your body up to stand upright and your chin up and a big smile on your face, that will change the stress and anxiety levels as well. And yes, the other part, which is an extension of that, sort of like the next level up from the simple techniques, is something that Caroline Purvey does. And I found out about this year, and I am absolutely hooked on this, and I'm in love with this. It's a natural technique. Caroline has a great system called Total Release Experience. TRE UK, or TRE UK, as I like to call it. I can send the links, or you can message me below, or get in touch with me, and I can send you to Caroline. Caroline utilizes the psoas muscle, which is a muscle in our body. It attaches the bottom half to the top half of our body. It's a very big, strong muscle. It's also this place where we keep our stress. And this is stress that we've probably got over a lifetime. So if you think about things that are stressful, the events in our life, birth, giving birth, accidents, operations, seeing accidents, it doesn't even have to be your accident. Moving home, divorce, all the things that you've talked about, stress, Trish, that stress becomes in our buckets inside our body. And unless we release it and get rid of it, then we hold on to it, and that's going to make us diseased, not at ease, diseased. And so what I love about what Caroline does is that she gives you an online tool. You can work with her directly, but an online tool where she's there and available to help you with any of the emotional issues that may come up for you, or physical issues. So, really, really think Caroline's work is the way forward. And she's also said that if we get like 50 to 100 people who are interested in joining our age group, we can create a paper which then can prove that this psoas exercise, this total release responsible, has got huge benefits, and we can all learn it, no matter what our age, what our physical physicalities. You don't have to be fit to do this. And this is what I think is key. It doesn't matter race, age, nothing. Everybody can do it. It's a natural thing. We've just forgotten, and that's the key, isn't it? A lot of this is about what we forgot. It's just putting back in place the easy bits. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's so key to connect with what our body has held on to. I've had to do that myself when I had a major operation as a child on my head, and just realizing that I needed to release that stress that was still sitting there. And there's so many amazing therapists out there that can help with that. And that was really key as part of my journey. This is what's really good about this, is that you don't need, once you've learnt the technique, you don't need to go to a therapist. Isn't that fabulous?
You can do it yourself. This is what's really key. Marion's just asked me what's the name of the muscle. It's the psoas muscle. Caroline's just writing there. PSOAS.
Absolutely. It's obviously not phonetic. What do I try and call it? Psoas muscle.
Isn't it interesting? There's a word that makes us go, hang on a minute. It's part of us. Most of us have never heard of it. So very important.
I remember. I do know that, and I have done some research. It's fabulous. Yeah. Wow. So you've talked a lot about supporting others. What else can we do? We want to hear some more, because I think it's so key. You've had your family, you've had clients, you've worked for years with people. What impact has that had on you, just all this giving out and looking after people? So tell us, what else can we do, and what did you do to keep this sustained?
I have this word called sensibly selfish.
Oh yes,
which I think sums it up really, and it's key in all things that we do. We are the only person we are going to spend our whole life with on the planet.
Yeah, yes.
Women are so good at helping everybody else and putting themselves last on the list. When in fact, if we come from a really good place, as in we've looked after ourselves, then we can support others from a really positive place. So this is really, really important. So looking after yourself, what does that mean? Get in support if you need support. Reach out to a good friend and, have a good chat with them. Go for a walk. Use the word no. Big one, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's the point of running yourself down into the ground because you're unable to say no? it's this thing again, isn't it, about you're the only one you're going to spend the rest of your life with. You know, make sure that you're healthy first before you support others.
Yeah.
And you know, you give yourself permission to not understand. It's a bit like you said about giving yourself permission when you're in an anxious state, to not berate yourself, you know, to really think about what would truly be good for you. And this could be going, as I said, for a walk, just saying I'm going away for the night. I need to be in my own space. One of the things that I did, I journaled for a while, and I actually set up a blog online. My blog was called Wife in Midlife Crisis. And I wrote all sorts of rubbish down there, but it was a way of me releasing what was going on. And don't look for it because it's not there anymore. I've taken it down. But it was a really good process for 2-3 years for me. And it also got me into writing, which has now become my medium. It's what I prefer to do. So the journaling was great fun. And at one point also, we were away on holiday. My husband couldn't sleep because he was so wound up. So I physically put my oldest son into his room and moved into the kids' bedroom so that I could sleep. When he was awake, I was also awake. And my youngest son, it didn't make any difference for him. He was fine. He just slept through it all. But then at least it meant that one of us was in a good place to deal with the kids the next day, because we got rid of this. You know, I'd had my sleep. So sensibly selfish is a really, really important thing. And as I say, women particularly, for some reason, we have it ingrained innately into us that we serve others first until we fall over, and then, you know, then we have to pick up the pieces. It's madness. So look after yourself first. Really, really important.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, and that was something I wish someone had told me a long time ago about give you, you know, is that, I mean, you've fabulous insights there, but I think what's really love is when what you mentioned about giving ourselves permission to be sensibly selfish. I think I refer to it as being self-full. We're actually not being selfish, where you're becoming needy, but you're actually recognizing what you can give for yourself. And that was a whole new concept for me, to value that I was worthy of actually having time out. And I think that's fabulous advice, to acknowledge that we don't have to be the martyr, we don't have to be superwoman. And, you know, that the old saying, put your oxygen mask on first before you can put it on anyone else. And I know that I probably wouldn't have got to the levels of such extreme adrenal imbalance if someone had actually given me that advice. And so I love that. Thanks, Kay. It's really good to be reminded too.
We've got some comments here. Sue says that journaling is what she uses as well. It's a go-to method for making sense of situations. And Tracy said, "I'm so pleased I'm here." Really, she said, "I felt guilty about even suggesting going into the other bedroom." So she said, "Thank you. I needed to hear that today." So that was good.
Yeah. And I think it's making sure you've got something in place. I mean, I started doing Latin dancing in my 60s. You know, I love my dancing, and I do it for me. I've obviously got some fabulous friends, but you know, I invested a lot of money in doing, not a lot of money, but you know, I've joined a gym because that's important to me, and my dancing's important, and that's to me was being, I guess, I realise now, being sensibly selfish. You know, the day I turned 60, I got on a plane and flew literally to the other side of the world to see my daughter. You know, I wanted to do that, and it was just me, and that was a real investment of time and money, but I have no regrets, because it was me allowing myself to create these memories of of significant moments that I knew was going to impact me positively and not negatively. And that's what it's so key, for all of us.
Those memories are really important. I think it's a really good point to bring up, Trish, because we haven't really talked about this, but you've got a really good memory, then you can bring that back when you're in a state of, not in a good place. So creating memories is really, really important. I love that. It's a great share.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm wary of time, so we've got some questions. I've been collating them from the Eventbrite and been reaching out to people and asking.
Good.
We've got ladies with us. If they've got any questions they want to ask, if they want to put them into the chat, I'll bring them up. The first one is, I'm going to give it to you. What causes depression?
What causes depression? I had your name next to that one.
Well, I'll do it then.
Thank you.
I think the thing is, we don't know.
Yeah. I
think that's the easiest answer, isn't it, really? We don't know. Everybody's different. Like you said right at the beginning, what stresses somebody out and causes anxiety and then could lead to depression is completely different than somebody else. So I think if you are feeling anxious and you've got stress in your life, and then you find yourself maybe for 2 weeks or longer feeling in a negative place and feeling really low, then that's when you should think that possibly it's more than just anxiety and stress. And then we are not telling you don't go see somebody, but I would go and see somebody and get some advice. Go to your physician and seek and ask for what's out there, what possibilities. And if you find yourself not sleeping, not eating properly, then I would say then you've got probably depression. So it's worth investigating it. Don't leave it. That's the key, I think. Yeah.
Great answer. Thank you.
So let's just go on from that a bit then. So Trish, if we said, how would you describe a mental problem then, a mental health problem?
Yeah, no, that's one I can work with, and so, unfortunately, once again, it's often difficult. I didn't know that I was suffering from a mental problem. I knew there was something not right with me, and I'm glad that I had the curiosity and compassion and connected with my body that I actually made a choice. So I guess, I actually started to live the 4 C's myself to get that wholeness back into my life. And I think for people, sometimes you've just noticed different behaviour. And often they won't recognise it or want to know about it. And I think that's where it comes to holding space for someone. If there's a real concern that you think there could be some safety issues, you need to maybe get someone else involved. But I think it's, I remember someone saying that, it was when I was going through some grief, and I love this particular advice someone gives. Sometimes you can do something and you'll get it right, and sometimes you do something and you get it wrong. But the thing is, sometimes it's just good to do something. And often if people are struggling with mental issues, often they won't respond well. And it's a very sort of difficult time to know how to protect your own well-being, but also want to be there for others. But I think the key is when there's changes in behaviour and when there's changes in just normal habits, then there's something happening for them. And often it's just talking to them, or a lot of the keys that Kay talked about, maybe just keeping in touch. COVID's a really hard one for a lot of isolation. Remember to phone people who are on your own. Just check in with people. Even if they come and say, I'm fine. I got really good at putting on a false smile. Yeah. And people would say, how are you, Trish? I'm fine. And I wasn't. And it's only the people who actually knew me and loved me to that level of pursuing the care that I knew I needed at the time. And now I'm aware that that's something I can give others as well. Not fix them, because I love what you said. We can't fix people. They need to get to a stage where they know they need help themselves. But it's always been there as someone they know they can trust. I think that's key. If there's someone in your life that you really are wanting to help and support, I think the key is let them know that they can trust you, even if they are really horrible to you at times. I've had that happen with people that I know have just needed to have someone in their life, and it's all about, keeping yourself safe, but being aware that someone will need you, maybe. And then you can help them get into the right support they need if it's medical advice.
Yeah, I think that's really
Anything
important.
else to add? Please add some more.
Yeah,
Kate.
no, I think it's good. As you said, it's very difficult. We don't know. Sometimes the person is just so good at hiding it, you won't know.
Yeah.
And you have to be aware. Caroline put something which I think is really important as well. She said, when you spiral down, it's because your stress bucket, as she calls it, is full and it needs emptying. And
I love that.
You can do that with the psoas muscle exercise.
Yes.
So that's really, really good. And Sue also put that she putting herself cost her a 32-year relationship, but she was prepared to take the risk to fix herself. And it'll be 35 years this year, and it's not selfish, it was necessary. I think that's really important too. Yeah,
thank you. Awesome. So another question we had is, what do I do if it's an emergency? What can you say, Kay, if you think there's something that needs to have that level of seriousness? Yeah.
So depending on where you are in the world, have handy and to hand phone numbers of helplines where you can go and ask for help. That's for you personally. If the other person is in stress, in a real state, and you need to ring the emergency services for them, don't hesitate. It's important. And the other thing is, if they're taking medication, and this is something that gets forgotten, and I think it's important to say, if they are taking medication, make sure that medication's written down somewhere, or you keep the prescriptions or the receipts, the recetas as we call them here in Spanish, in a safe place. A really good place is to put them in a plastic bottle or a jam jar in the fridge. You can put a red cross on it or anything. That can be then grabbed and taken by the medical services so they know what they're taking. And that helps people in the hospital or in the clinic define what needs to be done quicker than trying to work out what the person's taken. And it can save a life. So, having anybody in the house who's got prescription medication, having what they're taking in a jam jar in the cupboard ready for taking is really, really good. So that's, and you have another choice. You have an alternative, I believe.
My one was just given to me by a friend who lost her phone, and she realised that somebody actually managed to get hold of her email through the phone, and I just now I have on my phone a little laminated but on the back of the cover that has an emergency phone number and also my email address. I thought, I spend a lot on my own. If I had a car accident or something happened to me and someone needed to contact someone, it's on the back of my phone, because obviously my phone's locked when I get my phone working again. but there are, I think, just and that's been a valid safety thing for me. That I mean, there was a time when I did go have these anxiety attacks. I still remember the time I was in the middle of the supermarket and I just had this total brain fog. I didn't know what I was doing there. I didn't know who I was. It was really scary at that moment. And thankfully, I knew enough about the breathing because that's such a simple way to bring you out of that real panic mode. And I just stayed there until I knew I could see what was happening. But there are people I know who do have that valid concern. What if I have a panic attack and I can't express to anybody what I need? It's just, hand them your phone, in the back there's a phone number. And obviously it's someone who knows your condition. Oh, but I don't like that condition, but someone who you can trust to understand what's been happening for you. So that's just something else to put.
I think that really valid. And I wanted to just sidetrack a little bit here,
Yes,
because
please.
we've got the most awesome and amazing ladies in this group.
Yes,
And
fabulous.
there's one that deserves a mention right now. We've talked about her between us, and yet we haven't brought her up in this conversation, so I want to do that. And that's Linda Ledwidge, who's a really good friend of mine here in Mallorca.
She's written the book.
Linda's just written the most amazing book on stress, and I would really recommend everybody in the group read it. I'm hoping that I can persuade Linda to also come and join me in a conversation, and Caroline too, because I think the two of them are just got amazing techniques. And again, the thing that I love about all this is it's natural and it's simple. None of it's complicated. And, I'm really into simplicity. So yeah, Linda's book is a definite must.
Yes.
Have you got the title in front of you? Because I've forgotten it. Redress stress, isn't it? Yeah.
I love it. And Linda, I just want to say I got sidetracked preparing this because I was reading your book, and I said to Kay this morning, if I was going to write a book, I would put all that in, but you have just put it in so superbly. I just would love to catch up with you at some stage, because I just thought that was such a beautifully succinct way of explaining a lot of what we've talked about tonight. So thanks, Kay, for mentioning that, because you definitely deserve a mention. And is it Caroline too? I'd love to explore that some more. So we're doing great, Kay. Would you believe that we thought we'd be so busy talking about everything that we would be having to sort of close each other down, but we've actually still got 5 minutes. So was there anything? We were going to talk about our giveaways. Tell everybody about our giveaways.
Yeah, giveaways. I'm very happy to have a chat with anybody who wants to talk to me for 30 minutes. Let's see if we can work out what's going on in your life and where you need to go. Where I can direct you, or whether we can work together. And you can find that. I'm going to put it up now. Let me just go over here to banners and find this one. You can find me at knewton.com. And Trish, what are you going to offer?
Yes, there we go. There's me there. I'm the same as Kay. I love to talk to people, and if there's anyone who feels that they'd like to maybe tell them about their story, I guess I see myself as a life coach now, that I actually assist people who are often going through navigating those changes, because that was something that I needed help with. When you've got some huge life shifts, it's almost like you're steering the boat in one direction, and there's constant wind changes. And for me, it was a lot of navigating to very unfamiliar waters, and some pretty turbulent ones too. And so there's a lot of just experience and obviously a lot of training I've done, that I would just love to just sit and talk with anyone who would like to connect with me. And there I am down there right next to the wonderful Kay Newton. And
the same with me. My big thing is to create a space where you can explore what you need to explore. Think about, you don't need to fix it, fixing by someone else. You can do the fixing, you just need the space.
Absolutely. And
some thoughts to think about to finish with. What have you got?
Yes. Oh, okay.
I start?
Yes.
The only constant in the universe is change. That's a big one, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. My one is, we learn every day until the day we die. And that's the mantra of mine. I want to always be learning and growing and becoming a better version of myself till the day I die. We learn every day until the day we die.
And going on from the only constant in the universe is nothing changes if nothing changes. If we want to redirect our boat, then we're the ones who have to do the sailing. So yeah.
Absolutely. And my one, which I always like to bring in every year, is enjoy life now. This is not a rehearsal. And we have the choice to make every day our best day. And there's a lot of external circumstances out there right now that are impacting our ability, our freedom, but we always have the freedom of choice of how we respond to everything that's happening around us. So I think it's been really key to for us to just bring in all these different aspects today. But as we mentioned at the beginning, and we really want to make sure you do take this on board, that we're not medical practitioners, and this is our own experience, and please always seek the advice of a medical professional, and please don't stop taking prescribed medication until you've discussed it with a practitioner. I mean, we both are aware of organic and very much natural ways of healing our body, soul and mind, but it's so important that you are aware that if you've got something in place with a practitioner, that you keep up with that and chat with us. And sometimes it's just a mindset. I mean, I had to deal with a lot of thinking about my beliefs, about myself. I had to work through a lot of wounding and suppressed emotions from the past, things that had happened, right back as a little girl, and that's all part of working through some beliefs that can limit us and really living the life that we are capable of living. Back to you, Kay.
I love that thinking. It's really good. It's a real tongue twister as well, but I love it. Thinking, yeah. I think we're just about coming to the end. If anybody's got any questions,
please, any more,
we'd love them. If not, we're going to wrap up because it's perfect timing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this broadcast when it's ended, and I'm going to, it will be available in the group. I shall put it under one of the side bits where you can find it. I've forgotten the name of the heading now off the top of my head. I'll have a look at that when we've finished. Then I'll also upload it onto YouTube so that it's going to be available for you to pick up whenever you need it. So, and thank you ever so much for the ladies who've been with us.
Yes.
Marion says thank you, ladies, for taking the time. And Penny said she was just happy to listen. Tracy says thank you, have a lovely day. So we've had a great time. Thank you, Trish, for being with us all the way from New Zealand.
As you can see, it's dark behind me now.
Go and enjoy your evening. I'm going to start my day. So interesting.
Thanks, everybody. Lovely to just be able to be here and have this conversation. It's been awesome.
Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye.